was never supposed to happen. One conversation, one uncomfortable truth, and suddenly Jimmy Fallon was gone. No warning, no scandal, just silence behind the scenes of The Tonight Show. What did Kelly Clarkson say that reportedly pushed late night's nicest host to the edge? And why are insiders calling this the moment that broke everything? Don't blink, because this story changes how you see Hollywood forever. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so you never miss an update. Now let's dive into what really happened. Nobody saw this coming. Not the studio audience, not the production crew, and certainly not millions of late-night television fans around the world. For years, The Tonight Show had been a place of laughter, music, and light-hearted fun. Jimmy Fallon built his reputation on being the nice guy of late night, the host who laughed with his guests, never talked down to them, and always kept the mood upbeat. So when rumors suddenly exploded online claiming that Jimmy Fallon had quit The Tonight Show after a heated clash with Kelly Clarkson, disbelief quickly turned into shock. At first, it didn't seem real. After all, Jimmy Fallon and Kelly Clarkson were seen as friends of television. Two warm, relatable personalities who shared humor, musical talent, and genuine charm. A public fallout between them felt almost impossible. But as days passed, subtle signs began to surface, and fans started noticing that something was clearly wrong. Viewers who never miss an episode sensed it immediately. Jimmy's usual spark felt dimmer. His laughter seemed forced. Jokes that once brought roaring applause landed softer than expected. Even his trademark smile, the one fans had trusted for years, didn't linger the way it used to. The energy had shifted, and audiences could feel it through the screen. Then came the whispers. Behind the cameras, insiders spoke of tense moments backstage, conversations that grew uncomfortable, creative discussions that turned personal, raised voices echoing briefly before sudden silence, a disagreement that reportedly crossed a line neither side expected to reach. The internet did what it always does. It connected the dots. Clips were rewatched. Interviews were analyzed. Fans debated every detail in comment sections, try to understand how a friendly collaboration could spiral into something so serious. And at the center of it all was one shocking claim. Jimmy Fallon was done. This wasn't just another celebrity disagreement. This wasn't a rating stunt or a scripted controversy. This was about pressure. Pressure to perform every night. Pressure to stay relevant in a rapidly changing media world. Pressure to always smile, always joke, always be okay, even when you're not. Late-night television may look glamorous, but behind the scenes, it's a relentless machine. Hosts carry the weight of ratings, critics, social media backlash, and constant comparison. For someone like Jimmy Fallon, known for kindness and emotional openness, that pressure can quietly build until one moment pushes everything over the edge. And that moment, according to insiders, may have arrived during a conversation that was never meant to become confrontational. Kelly Clarkson is known for honesty. She speaks her mind. She doesn't sugarcoat her feelings, even when it's uncomfortable. When two strong personalities meet under intense pressure, even good intentions can collide in unexpected ways. This wasn't about comedy versus music. It wasn't about ego versus talent. It was about pride, exhaustion, and a conversation that struck deeper than either person expected. What truly happened behind those studio doors remains known only to those present. But one thing is clear, something changed. And once that line was crossed, there was no easy way back. Because sometimes the biggest breaking points don't happen on camera. They happen in quiet rooms, behind closed doors, when the laughter fades and reality finally speaks. And what happened next would leave fans stunned. According to multiple insiders, the tension didn't explode out of nowhere. In fact, it began quietly during what was supposed to be a friendly, creative collaboration between two television favorites. Jimmy Fallon and Kelly Clarkson had reportedly come together to discuss future joint segments, possible musical moments, and guest appearances that would bring fresh energy to late-night television. On the surface, everything seemed positive. Laughter filled the room. Ideas were shared freely. Both stars smiled, joked, and appeared completely aligned. But beneath those smiles, something was slowly building. Insiders say the conversation started to shift when creative boundaries were brought into question. One proposed segment, described by sources as overly scripted and emotionally shallow, became the center of the discussion. Kelly Clarkson, known for her honesty and emotional intelligence, allegedly expressed concerns about the idea. She reportedly felt the segment lacked authenticity and didn't reflect real connection with the audience. Kelly didn't raise her voice. She didn't attack. She simply spoke her truth. For Kelly, creative work has always been personal. She has built her career on raw emotion, sincerity, and being unapologetically herself. According to those present, she calmly but firmly explained that she couldn't support something that felt forced or tone-deaf, especially at a time when audiences crave honesty more than ever. That's when the atmosphere changed. Jimmy Fallon, insiders claim, took the feedback harder than expected. At the time, he was reportedly under immense pressure from network executives, declining ratings and nonstop comparisons within the late-night landscape. What may have been meant as constructive criticism landed differently, not as guidance, but as a challenge to creative judgment. What started as a professional disagreement slowly turned emotional. Jimmy's tone reportedly shifted. His humor faded. The light energy he's known for disappeared from the room. Kelly, sensing the tension, remained composed but refused to back down. She believed in what she was saying, and she wasn't willing to compromise her values just to keep things comfortable. That's when voices reportedly rose. Not shouting, not chaos, but enough intensity to make everyone else in the room stop what they were doing. Conversations ended. Eyes turned. Crew members later described the moment as deeply uncomfortable, the kind of silence that feels heavier than noise. Then came the pause. Jimmy, usually quick with joke or a laugh to defuse tension, reportedly went quiet. No smile, no response, just silence. That silence, insiders say, spoke louder than any argument. It wasn't anger. It was something else. Disappointment, exhaustion, a realization that something had shifted. In that quiet moment, the conversation was no longer about a segment or a creative idea. It had become personal. Kelly stood firm. According to sources, she didn't apologize for her honesty. She didn't soften her stance. She believed that creative integrity mattered more than avoiding discomfort. And while her words may not have been meant to hurt, they clearly landed with weight. For everyone present, it became clear this wasn't just another behind-the-scenes disagreement. This was a breaking point, a moment where two worlds collided, one driven by constant performance pressure, the other by emotional truth. When the meeting ended, there was no resolution, no handshake, no laughter to smooth things over, just distance. And from that moment on, insiders say everything felt different. Because sometimes it only takes one conversation, one uncomfortable truth, to change the course of an entire career. To truly understand why that moment mattered so much, you have to understand the pressure Jimmy Fallon has been living under, pressure most viewers never see. Late-night television is no longer what it used to be. The competition is fiercer. Audiences are fragmented. Ratings rise and fall overnight. One viral clip can make you a hero, while one awkward moment can turn into a week-long controversy. Every joke is analyzed. Every reaction is slowed down, clipped, reposted, and judged by millions of strangers online. For Jimmy Fallon, that pressure has been constant. For years, he's carried the image of being the most likable host in America, the guy who laughs with his guests, avoids controversy, and keeps the mood light no matter what. But that image comes with a hidden cost. When you're expected to always be cheerful, there's very little room to admit you're struggling. Always be upbeat. Always be funny. Always be safe. That expectation doesn't turn off when the cameras stop rolling. Insiders say Jimmy has felt trapped between being authentic and meeting network demands. Executives want consistency. Advertisers want predictability. Fans want joy. And critics are always waiting for something to go wrong. Over time, that kind of pressure doesn't explode. It slowly wears you down. The smile becomes heavier. The laughter becomes harder. The joy becomes work. Kelly Clarkson's world looks very different. Kelly has built her career on honesty. She talks openly about heartbreak, anxiety, self-doubt, and creative burnout. Her audience connects with her because she doesn't pretend to have it all together. She believes vulnerability is strength, not weakness. According to insiders, during their conversation, Kelly encouraged Jimmy to slow down, to stop trying to please everyone, to remember why he fell in love with comedy in the first place. She reportedly spoke about creative freedom, emotional honesty, and the danger of losing yourself while trying to meet everyone else's expectations. From her perspective, it was advice. From his perspective, it felt like exposure. Timing matters. Jimmy was already exhausted, already questioning himself, already feeling the weight of comparisons and criticism. And in that vulnerable state, even well-meaning words can feel overwhelming. Insiders say Jimmy didn't hear encouragement. He heard confirmation of his fears, that he was tired, that he was stretched too thin, that he might be losing control of something he once loved. And when someone holds up a mirror at the wrong moment, the reflection can be painful. This wasn't about ego. It wasn't about pride. It was about identity. Jimmy Fallon wasn't just hearing feedback about a show. He was hearing questions about who he had become, about whether the joy audiences see on screen still existed behind the scenes. Kelly, by all accounts, meant no harm. She believed honesty could help. She believed slowing down could heal. But sometimes, truth delivered with care can still cut deep when the wounds are already open. And that's the reality of pressure behind the smiles. The audience sees laughter. The cameras capture jokes. But behind it all is a human being carrying expectations few could handle for long. This moment didn't break Jimmy Fallon overnight. It cracked something that had already been fragile. And once that crack appeared, everything that followed began to make sense. In the days that followed the confrontation, something quietly changed, and the audience could feel it. There was no announcement, no dramatic statement, no sudden breaking news alert. Instead, the shift happened in subtle ways that only loyal viewers noticed. Episodes of The Tonight Show were suddenly pre-taped instead of live. Guest lineups were adjusted. Jimmy appeared less frequently in promotional clips. Even his on-screen presence felt distant, as if part of him was already somewhere else. Fans began asking questions. Then came the headline that stunned everyone. Jimmy Fallon was stepping away from The Tonight Show. The news spread fast. Social media exploded with disbelief, confusion, and concern. How could the face of late-night television, the host who built his career on laughter and lightheartedness, simply walk away? Officially, no statement confirmed a direct link to Kelly Clarkson or the behind-the-scenes clash. Public explanations were careful, measured, and vague. But insiders tell a different story. According to those close to the situation, that confrontation wasn't the cause. It was the tipping point. For Jimmy, it forced something he'd been avoiding for years. Reflection. Sources say he took time away from the noise to look at the bigger picture. Not just one disagreement, not one tough conversation, but the accumulation of nonstop pressure, public scrutiny, and invisible demand to be on every single night. Late night hosting doesn't end when the cameras turn off. It follows you home. It lives in ratings reports, headlines, social media reactions, and constant comparisons. Over time, that weight becomes impossible to ignore. This wasn't rage. This wasn't scandal. This was exhaustion. Jimmy didn't storm out of the studio. He didn't lash out. There were no slammed doors or angry ultimatums. Instead, insiders describe a quiet decision, one made slowly, thoughtfully, and with emotional honesty. For the first time in years, Jimmy chose himself. He reportedly asked difficult questions. Was he still happy? Was the pressure worth the cost? Was the version of himself on television still real, or just survival? And the answers weren't easy. Stepping away from The Tonight Show wasn't about giving up. It was about breathing, about reclaiming space, about recognizing that even success can become overwhelming when it never stops demanding more. For fans, the decision felt shocking. But for those closest to Jimmy, it felt inevitable. Kelly Clarkson, meanwhile, has remained publicly silent. No interviews, no comments, no social media posts addressing the situation. But sources close to her say she was deeply affected by what happened. She never intended to trigger headlines or consequences. According to insiders, Kelly hoped the moment would lead to healing, not separation. Growth, not gossip. Her honesty, while difficult, was never meant to hurt. In private, she reportedly expressed concern, not defensiveness. Compassion, not blame. This wasn't a feud. It wasn't a rivalry. It was two human beings colliding under enormous pressure. And in that collision, one man realized he needed to step back before the cost became too high. The spotlight can be bright, but it can also be blinding. And sometimes the bravest decision isn't staying. It's knowing when to walk away. Whether Jimmy Fallon officially quit The Tonight Show because of this clash or not, one truth stands above all the speculation. This moment revealed something far bigger than late-night television drama. It exposed the invisible weight carried by people we see smiling every night on our screens. The laughter, the jokes, the applause, they can hide exhaustion, doubt, and emotional strain. Fame doesn't cancel pressure. Success doesn't guarantee peace. And being loved by millions doesn't mean you feel supported when the cameras turn off. This story reminds us of something easy to forget. Burnout doesn't always look like breaking down. Sometimes it looks like someone quietly stepping back before they completely fall apart. Jimmy Fallon's situation highlights a hard truth about modern entertainment. The industry celebrates consistency, but rarely allows rest. It rewards visibility, but punishes vulnerability. Late-night hosts are expected to perform endlessly, to adapt, stay relevant, stay funny, and never show fatigue. But even the most joyful faces carry invisible weight. This moment wasn't about villains or winners. It wasn't about ego or power. It was about humanity. Jimmy Fallon reminded us that stepping back isn't weakness. Sometimes it's survival. Choosing well-being over spotlight takes courage in an industry that never stops asking for more. His decision, quiet as it was, sent a loud message. Mental and emotional health matter, even at the highest level of success. Kelly Clarkson's role in this story matters too. She reminded us that authenticity still has value, that honest conversations, even uncomfortable ones, can spark necessary change. Her willingness to speak openly, even when it risked tension, reflected a belief that truth matters more than comfort. But honesty comes with consequences. When truth meets exhaustion, it can feel overwhelming. And when timing is wrong, even good intentions can create painful outcomes. This moment shows how delicate human interactions can be under pressure, especially in environments where everyone is already stretched thin. As fans, we often see the performance, not the person. We see the polished monologue, not the sleepless nights. We see the smile, not the self-doubt. We see the success, not the struggle. This moment pulled back the curtain, not to expose failure, but to reveal reality. And now, the question isn't just what happens next for Jimmy Fallon. The bigger question is whether Hollywood and audiences will finally allow their stars to be human. Will the industry make space for rest without shame? Will honesty be met with understanding instead of headlines? Will stepping back be seen as strength instead of quitting? This story may fade from a news cycle, but its message shouldn't. Because behind every spotlight is a person. Behind every laugh is effort. And behind every success is a human being who sometimes needs to breathe. And maybe, just maybe, this moment will help change the conversation.